Welcome to Raven Talk, the official podcast of the Raven Tribe. The Raven Tribe is a home for warriors on the path, and is dedicated to training warriors for the battlefield of life. Visit us on the web at theraventribe.com, where you can learn more information on membership, warrior training, as well as links to our official YouTube channel, Facebook group, apparel store, and our official bookstore, Marshall Books. Welcome back, Tribe. Today on Raven Talk, we'll be speaking to Krav Maga instructor Sue Garski, and we will be exploring the art of Krav Maga and Sue's personal journey into Krav Maga. Sue, how are you today?
I'm very good, thank you.
Good, good. I'm glad to have you on. It's always great to touch base with you. We've been able to train in the past together, and it's always good speaking to you, Sue. So just wanted to get things started here and introduce the audience to you. If you wouldn't mind, Sue, could you give us a little bit of background about yourself, how you got started in martial arts, and how you ended up in Krav?
Well, I got started in martial arts pretty young, and it was in the 70s when there were a lot of attacks on women. And all of a sudden, judo took off. So all women were getting their white gis on, and they were doing judo classes. So I joined up with a couple friends of mine at a local judo place in my neighborhood. And I did it for a little while, and then I kind of broke off from it. And then I went from kind of martial art to martial art until I found karate. And I started doing Shoei Goju karate, got my black belt in that, and I was teaching all the time. And someone told me about Krav Maga, and so I went and tried a class. I had never heard about it before. And I fell in love with it. So I continued to train and train and train and train until I became an instructor, and then eventually got my own school.
Now, Sue, for you on a personal level, what did you find in Krav that made you want to make that your home, in the martial arts? What did you find there that you didn't find in other martial arts you had trained?
I fell in love with the simplicity of it and the right off the bat brutality of it. It was complete self-defense training. There was no fluff. It was go into class, someone's going to choke you, you're going to defend yourself, you're going to run, you're going to do combatives, and then you're going to get choked again. There was no formalities in it. I didn't feel like I had to wait 2-3 years in order to get to the good stuff. I felt like the good stuff was right there. I felt confident that it made me stronger after my very first class. So I was hooked on it right from the start.
Now, Sue, for those people that may not know you or have met you in person, you're very small as far as your frame. You're not tall. You're a small person, and especially being a woman, did you find that Krav offered you a skill set that was easy for you to apply, that you felt really confident in using against a male attacker?
I felt that the principles of the techniques I was doing had no bearing on whether you were young, old, tall, small, female, male. I felt that anyone can do it. I was very confident in that area. When I was doing the techniques, my first partner was a guy who was about 6 feet tall, bald-headed, scary as hell, and here I was paired up with him. I tried to stand as far away from him as I could so that I could feel like I was as tall as he was, but when it came to choking, it was very realistic. He put his hands on my throat, I did the defense, and I was so shocked and amazed that it worked so quickly. From that first time of working with him, I always chose, when I went into class, the biggest guy that I could find, because I believed that if it could work on me, if I could pull it off, then anybody can do it.
Now, Krav is by far, I would say, the most popular of the, modern combative martial arts. It's, taught around the world. It's taught in the Israeli Defense Force. I mean, this is some pretty serious training here. And that kind of community attracts people that are, either that type of person or aspiring to be that type of person. Like you said, the big, strong, scary guy. As a student of Krav, I can imagine that instructors are welcome to bring everybody in as students, but I would imagine that as a female instructor, especially a smaller female instructor, in that kind of environment, might have some challenges or some interesting, resistance, to say the least. What was your experience with that, with the community in general? As a woman, did you have to kind of fight for your place to be able to teach men? Were they taking you seriously off the bat, or did you have to kind of struggle to get that respect?
I never felt once that I had to struggle to get that respect in my Krav Maga training and in my teaching. I'm extremely confident and believe in Krav Maga, and I believe in the reality of it. I believe that it works. So I would transfer that over when I would meet someone. So my school is on a military base, near a military base, excuse me. So we would have military guys come in, police officers, men, women, just anyone come in. And it didn't matter if you were a mom coming in to take a class or if you were a combatives instructor coming into a class. I could pull it off simply by my belief in what I do. So I really never felt that feeling of, I don't know if I can train this guy. He's got too much knowledge. He's too big. He's too this. He's too that. I really never felt that. I just believed that if I have confidence in my technique, then the confidence would transfer over when I met someone, make it believable, and then they would become a student.
Now, Sue, I have, and I think that's awesome that was your experience. I've run into women that have had trouble in that sense as far as being teachers. What advice do you give to women, that are finding themselves maybe in that position? I mean, it seems like that was a pitfall that you were able to avoid. What would be a strategy that you would recommend to, a new instructor that is, making a name for themselves, getting out there teaching, and maybe running into people that might give them some resistance?
It's a mental thing. I believe it's all mental. You have to go into it knowing that you know your stuff. You can help someone to protect themselves. You need to be really good at what you're doing, and you need to really believe in it. If you have that lack of confidence to where, you meet someone and you're thinking, "Ooh, I don't know if I could," then you need to go back and practice a little bit more and believe more in what you're doing. So take a step back, think about what you're doing, why you're doing it, think about what you're teaching, and then try and put all of your beliefs into that, and then that will come out when you're trying to train someone else. But if you're not confident with yourself, you're not going to be confident when it comes to training someone else.
Now, Sue, if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to talk a little bit about the mechanical, aspect of Krav and what is taught in classes. I think a lot of people think they know what Krav Maga is. They see, teaser clips on YouTube and Facebook, and they may have heard about it or seen ads in magazines. But, unless you really get into a class and work the material, you don't really know what an art's all about. So can you tell me a little bit about Krav? How does it function? What ranges are focused on? What types of techniques are you being taught in, a traditional Krav Maga class?
In your Krav Maga class, what you're getting is your fighting spirit, your will to survive. We're working on awareness and reaction. You could know all the self-defense in the world, but if you can't pull it off when you need to, then you really don't have anything because it's too late. So we teach very simplistic punches, knees, elbows, kicks, defenses against chokes and grabs, something very simple. And then we just keep building on it. And we get you confident with those knees, and your knees get harder and harder, and your punches get harder and harder to where you feel pretty good. You feel like you can defend yourself if you needed to. We don't make it it's not very intricate. It's simple. The more simple we do it, the better it's going to transfer over for other people. In fact, there's a story of Amy. Amy Lichtenfeld is the founder of Krav Maga. And he was driving with Darren Levine, who is the chief instructor. And this is in a book. And Darren just got a new sports car, and he was asking Amy how he liked it. And so Amy reached over to try to put the seatbelt on, but he couldn't reach the seatbelt. And so Darren said, "What's wrong?" And he said, "Well, the seatbelt, I can't reach it. I'm just not going to use it." And he used that analogy with Krav Maga. If something is too difficult, no one's going to do it. But if we can present to the students something that's so simple that anyone can do it, then you're going to keep doing it and keep doing it until you get better and better and better and better at it. So the simplicity is an important part of what we're teaching.
Now, it's my understanding that Krav also has a very physical element to it as far as the physical conditioning. Can you tell me a little bit about what kind of conditioning the student can expect to go through?
We strengthen your entire body in order to withstand a violent encounter. So you're not going to be, after your Krav Maga classes, you're not going to be easily pushed over. You're holding a pad, your partner's hitting the pad, pushing you back, and you're just trying to stand your ground like you would in a real situation. We have a lot of students who come in, maybe you're a marathon runner and you think you could run all these miles, and then you do a Krav Maga class and you're beat by the end of the class. We train anaerobically for real situations. So you're training as hard as you can for 30 seconds, 60 seconds, 90 seconds, all out burnouts, like it's on. You're defending yourself right now. You cannot stop. So we get you past your comfort zone, a place where you never thought that you would be. And once you're past your comfort zone, that's where you see how much further you can take it and how much more you're capable of. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about Krav Maga is that it takes people to a place where they've never been before. Yeah, you could hit hard. You can hit harder than that. This is about your life. And so people just keep trying to excel and excel and excel. And so it's nice to see all the changes that happen to a person in class.
Now, it's funny that you say that because I don't know if I ever shared this story with you, but for a brief period of time, you and I actually shared a student. And I remember he would come to class and he would tell me about, his day at Krav Maga class. And he'd say, yeah, that lady, and he was a young kid at the time, very young, I think he was like right out of high school. And he's like, that instructor, she's almost old enough to be my mom, and she can do more push-ups than me. She makes me look bad, and he used to motivate him. And he found so much motivation just seeing you as the instructor doing these things, and it really pushed him. So yeah, that definitely is an element that I saw, from one of my own students that was taking classes with you at the time. He was very motivated. He wanted to push himself past that physical limit.
Right. So we just present it as, look, I can do it. I can do it. I want you to do 100 push-ups. Guess what? I can do 100 push-ups too, because I have to. I have to keep myself fresh. Sometimes when you're talking about self-defense, you don't think about how you need to practice that self-defense. Let's say, for instance, you're a basketball player and there's a big game. The big game's coming up. You're practicing every day, hours, every day, hours for a game. It's just a game. It has nothing to do with your life. It's a game. So why can't we instill that into people when they're training self-defense? This isn't a game. This is for your life. So let's train. Let's get you past. Now you do 10 push-ups. Great. Now let's do 30. Let's do 40. Let's do 50. Let's keep moving. Let's keep going. Let's keep excelling. You think you punch hard now? Wait until 4 months. 4 months from now, how strong are you going to be? So if we could just take that and put it into self-defense training, then our students would just become stronger and stronger and stronger.
Now, Sue, you've set up some great Krav Maga schools here in the Chicagoland area, and you're formally affiliated with Mr. Levine. And I wanted to ask you if you could share with the audience, to the best of your knowledge, just some of the history of Krav. Where does Krav come from? Because again, I think it's something that everybody hears, and they will associate it with the Israeli military. But few people really look into the evolution of how it developed and what the needs were when it developed. Can you tell us something about that and kind of put the origins of Krav into context for us?
Well, just quickly, a guy named Emi Lichtenfeld. It was a pretty small frame. His dad had a boxing gym, and Emi was used to seeing the people in his neighborhood being, let's just say, bullied. He wanted to kind of protect them, protect himself, protect his community, protect his family. So he came up with this system of self-defenses that was so simplistic that anybody could do it. He showed it to the military in Israel, and they took it and they used it as part of their training. So it's still in the book of combat, in the Israeli military. And so once he started teaching the Israeli military, then it kind of got out and civilians were interested in it. So he trained a couple of guys, got them to get their black belts, Darren Levine being one of them. And Darren Levine brought it to the United States and started Krav Maga in the United States, which slowly started to pick up steam. And now we have it all over the place, Krav Maga worldwide. And those instructors from worldwide, they're branching off. They're doing their own organizations in other schools all over. The traditional martial arts schools are seeing that, hey, look at this. This Krav Maga is bringing in a lot of adults. Why don't we offer it in our school? They're learning Krav Maga. Then they're bringing it back to their schools and they're offering it in their programs. So it's becoming pretty well known. But in that same instance, there are people teaching Krav Maga that really aren't teaching Krav Maga. They're teaching Krav Maga with a little of Taekwondo, a little of this and a little of that, and they're not keeping it pure. So if you are going to do Krav Maga, you should just do a little research and find out what kind of experience your instructor has before you go in there and you know, start learning something that might not be what you think you're learning.
And that's a great point, Sue. I mean, it's on one side of the coin, it's wonderful that this art is getting out there and it's disseminating and getting to people that are going to find value in it. But like you said, there's a lot of people that are just seeing it as a moneymaker and getting out there. And I think you're even, you know, being kind in the way that you're describing some of the people that are, you know, maybe teaching a little of this, a little of that. You know, I've seen people that I could almost certainly, you know, guarantee have never trained Krav Maga a day in their life. They just know some type of martial art and decide to throw up a Krav sign, and that's what they do. You know, I mean, that's kind of a sad state, and you see that with a lot of martial arts. It's not just your martial art. Anything that seems to be popular at the moment, you know, people will then claim to teach it. You know, it's the kind of thing out there. But yeah, definitely. I mean, the you know, the qualified instructors out there. I mean, it's good that there's a network, you know, for people. If people are interested in learning Krav, what do you recommend for them? Do you recommend seminars for them? Do you recommend they just get into a class and, you know, dive right in?
We have a lot of people who are under the impression that before they take the Krav Maga class, they've got to get in shape. So the Krav Maga, my program is mostly adults. And you want to have adults in your martial arts school. A lot of martial arts schools have kids. I've got quite a few adults. And adults who've never done anything ever in their life. And they'll come in and they'll say, oh, this is too much. I got to, you know what, I'm going to lose weight first. I'm going to do this first. Well, that person who wants to attack you, they don't care if you lost weight or not. They don't care what kind of shape you're in. You got to get started right now. So I think if you are interested in this reality self-defense, the best thing for you to do is just find a qualified school. You may have to drive a little bit further, but Krav Maga is not just physical, it's mental as well. So you need an instructor who's not just going to help you, not just going to yell at you to do 100 push-ups, but they're going to give you that mindset of surviving whatever situation you find yourself in, which carries over into your daily life. It carries over into your work. It carries over into how you handle yourself, your family, all of that. So it's not just, I could punch stuff. I know exactly what I'm doing. I have awareness. I have that intuition. I'm working on my responses. I'm working on my reaction. There's a lot of things that go on in a Krav Maga class aside from, okay, here's a pad, now go hit it. You could do that all day long. Is it going to save you? Maybe. You know, maybe if it depends on the situation. But if you can get that mental training as well, that's going to help you so much more than just hitting a pad.
Now, Sue, let me ask you, just for a little bit of compare and contrast, because you have a lot of experience in other martial arts other than Krav. And just to kind of put it in context, you know, one of the main focuses of our group is, you know, character development, development of the warrior lifestyle as a lifestyle, not just, you know, on the mat or in the gym. And one of the things that I hear a lot from people in the martial arts community is a common critique of things like mixed martial arts or modern combatives in general, not specifically Krav, but that there's a missing element to it as far as that character development, the codes, things that, teach other important lessons other than just strictly self-defense lessons. Being somebody that's, been on both sides of that kind of training, what are your thoughts on that? Is it something that, and I will say this, I think there's a lot of arts that could fall into that category where you still have great coaches, that teach those kind of things, boxing coaches, wrestling coaches, any kind of sports coach. There's still a lot of life lessons that are taught and instilled in the students. Do you find that the lack of kind of a formalized way of teaching that hinders you as an instructor, or do you find your own personal way of instilling that into your students?
I think if you have a good instructor, you're going to get that anyway, because you're talking about adults who are working with other adults and they're choking them. They're holding pads. Your partner's, punching as hard as they can. They don't want to. You have to be careful how you handle the person that you're working with. So I think that some of those traits that you're talking about are instilled within the Krav Maga class. In other words, it's not just a free-for-all. In that class, I'm building camaraderie with the other students. I'm taking care of my partner. We're doing a lot of team building. We're in groups. We're working with people we've never seen before. We're learning how to get along. We're just pretty much all learning how to stay safe together as a group. So it's not a really cold environment where it's just, okay, you do this, you do that, whatever. We still are on an adult level doing a lot of character building and camaraderie building during our classes.
Excellent. Well, so let me ask you something also, just kind of about the flow of Krav as far as, how it changes and evolves. I remember being in a class with you and, kind of on break, we were discussing things. And I remember you sharing with us that, you were learning a new skill set that was, brought into the Krav, and was through Krav. And it was basically brought in as a response to, some common scenarios and things that people wanted a response to. Krav is not set in stone the way that, traditional karate might be, where you have, your list of all the techniques and they don't really change. I mean, is this something that is evolving, as a modern, combative method, to meet the needs of the students?
Yes, Krav is always evolving. So if you ever looked at the logo, there's a circle, and it's got the Kuf Mem in the middle, the K and the M, and then the circle is not closed. The circle opens at the top, it opens at the bottom. And that is just to represent all of the old stuff going out and the new stuff coming in. So it does represent evolution. The world is getting more violent every day. And people are attacking other people in different ways that, 60 years ago, no one ever did this. So we need to make sure that we stay sharp and we know exactly what's going on with today's attacks and not think back about attacks 100 years ago or 200 years ago. So if we're doing a specific knife defense and, 6 out of 10 soldiers are being injured with this specific technique, then it's going to be changed. So we need to keep it always, always evolving. Again, the world is not going to get any better. It's going to keep getting violent. So now we need to add wrestling, for instance, into our curriculum because more people are getting taken down, let's say. So now we need to know not only how to perform those techniques, but how to defend ourselves from those techniques. So it will never just stay the same with all the old techniques all the time. It's always going to be going, always.
Now, Sue, you mentioned, weapon defenses, and I think that if anybody were to attribute, a strength to Krav, it would definitely be their weapon defenses. I hear a lot of great things. The Krav kind of is famous for its weapon defenses. That takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of understanding, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it. Where do the weapon defenses from Krav come from? How are they developed and tested? Because that's an area of training that, in my opinion, even the best of us, from any art, are going to offer, some possible solutions at best, because that's such a tough nut, dealing with knives, dealing with guns. And Krav is famous for its weapon defenses. So tell me something about that.
Well, it goes back to the analogy I gave about the basketball game. and about practicing. You got to practice it. You got to practice it. Our chief instructor, Darren Levine, district attorney, he prosecutes people who've done crimes against peace officers. He's seen so many different things, so many attacks with all sorts of weapons. And he's got that documented proof. He's got videos. He's seen it live. He knows what's going on. So he'll bring it to us, and we'll kind of see, okay, so someone's at home and they're attacked with a knife, whatever, they're going to put their hands up, their hands are going to get slashed, this is going to happen, that's going to happen. So we're seeing that reality and figuring out how to deal with it. And again, I don't want to wait 7 years in my training to be able to defend myself from a knife or a gun, let's say. I need to know now what to do. Of course, awareness is the first step, but sometimes a little bit is better than none. So we give our students that weapons training, not right from the get-go, because we need them to have a good base, but pretty soon in their training, they're going to be defending themselves from guns and knives, because it's just again, with the reality self-defense training, that's what's going to happen. You may have someone who's going to come up behind you and hold a knife to your throat. What are you going to do? We have to give them that during our classes, because we can't dictate what's going to happen.
So now, on the other side of the coin, as far as weapons training, does Krav, at least on a civilian level, does Krav teach the use of weapons, of modern weapons, to the students?
It depends on where you're going to go and how talented your instructor is. We kind of stay on the defensive side. However, it's very important for you to know how to handle a gun, how to handle a firearm in case you do a takeaway and now here you have this weapon in your hand. So what the heck are you going to do with it now? So we try to teach both sides of it, how to defend, and then how to be more offensive with the weapon as well. So we do touch on that during our classes. We think that that's very important. And some schools have firearms instructors within. And so you could take a class, you could do your self-defense, then you can learn from the firearms instructor, do a seminar, everyone gets together, they go out to the shooting range, figure out how that really works. So it's really important to have those little side trips within your Krav Maga program, where you can get everyone together and you all can go out and you can learn a new skill that's going to help you in your self-defense training.
And Sue, let me ask you this, because a lot of schools, like you said, are focusing on children. And I wanted to get your take on it. What is the age limit for learning Krav Maga? Is it restricted only to adults, or teenagers welcome to come into the class? I mean, because I've seen some of the techniques that you do, and they're pretty hard-hitting. I mean, that's a big responsibility to, give to somebody that may not be fully, able to understand the repercussions of what they're going to do. Does Krav have a curriculum for younger, teenagers and for children, or is this something that's only, restricted to adults?
No, we do have a kids program. Me personally, at my school, I've had a Krav Maga kids program where the kids are pretty much doing the adult curriculum. I've tried it at 6, and I found that that's a little bit too immature. So I've changed that to 8, because the child has to have a good understanding of why and when they need to do that. At a younger age, you're going to teach them how to punch and all of that. But once they get older, then you start training the chokes and the grabs and why you're doing it and what to do. So I would say, especially at my school, my KMI Kids program, they're learning the kids' curriculum just on a smaller scale. That attacker is a big bear. They got to knock the bear down. So we try to give it to them in a way which is going to be very serious and realistic, yet it's not going to scare the heck out of them. They're not going to have nightmares. As far as teenagers go, we have a teen program. Again, builds their body to be able to withstand a violent encounter. They're doing push-ups, medicine ball stuff. They're getting strong. So if some bully comes up to them and tries to push them down, they are not going to go down to the ground. They know that, number one, they need to run. If they can't run, then they're going to use their Krav Maga. In our adult program, we have 14-year-olds who are working along with the adults. I can't say, oh, you're 14, you don't have the maturity level to defend yourself yet. But they do. They know how to punch. They can work with the adults. I look at them as just a smaller adult. So they're doing the same thing that a 14-year-old may be doing, the same thing that a 40-year-old is doing. It's how you present it and how you back it up and make them understand why they're doing it and when it's appropriate to do it. So again, that all goes, I think, with the instructor. You can't just say, okay, go out there and fight. It goes with that mental portion of Krav Maga training.
So now, let me ask you, with it sounds like, specifically at your school, you have classes available for all ages, for all people that want to come out and do this. With the Krav, how adaptable is it to particular student needs? I mean, is it something that you teach, the technique by the numbers to everybody, or is it something that you can tailor to, somebody that may be smaller in frame, somebody that may be less mobile? Is it something that lends itself for that type of training?
It does, but once again, you're talking about me. I'm 5'2", and, like you said, I am smaller. I hate to admit it, but yeah, I am. If I can do it, anyone can do it. So really, size doesn't have anything to do with it because we use leverage. However, because it is an adult program, we have adults who have shoulder injuries, knees, hips, everything under the sun, right? You're just getting older. So the program can be modified in order to still allow that person to train. So maybe you can't move, you can't punch with that left hand, but you can with your right hand. Maybe you can't do any jumps, but you can do squats. Maybe you can't do a push-up, but you can do abs. So it's all, we can modify anything. It doesn't matter who comes in. We have students, my oldest student is 86 years old. He's been training with me for years. He could punch, he could kick to his ability, but he's also getting that mental training, and he knows what to do, and he's aware of his situation, and he understands how quickly he needs to respond to a threat. So anything we tell students when they come in, especially if they say they have an injury or they've never done it before, you modify it the way that's best for you. You're still going to do all the drills, but maybe not exactly as that, athletic 20-year-old. If not, then what does that say? That says that self-defense training is only for persons who are in good shape, young, tall, male, and know what they're doing. If that's the way it is, then we may as well, not even try to defend ourselves. But it's got to be for everyone. And I believe that that's what Krav Maga is for, everyone.
So there really is no excuse for anybody that wants to get out there. They should not be intimidated by the physicality. The instructors are going to be willing to work with them. And it sounds like that's a great way of reaching out to everybody.
It is. And when you're looking in on a class, the best thing for you to do is just jump in the class. Because if you're going to watch it, you're going to be intimidated. You're going to see those push-ups. What we do in our Krav Maga classes is we prepare you for the self-defense training. In other words, we're going to get you tired before you learn your self-defense, because you're not going to be fresh. In a real situation, you're not going to be fresh. Everything's good. I can see clearly. You're going to have that adrenaline dump, tunnel vision. All these things are going to happen to you when you're afraid for your life. So we try to recreate that as we teach our self-defense. We turn off the lights. We turn up the music. You feel it's a very chaotic situation. I mean, what self-defense isn't chaotic? Is there ever a self-defense encounter you have where you're just, humming along and defending yourself while you're drinking a cup of coffee? That doesn't happen. So our class structure is a way in that it prepares you for the last step of the class, which is usually going to be a stress drill where we'll put everything that we've learned within the class together. And again, whether you're 14 or you're 60 or 70, you're still going to be able to do that drill to the best of your ability. It's aggressive training in a safe environment.
Now, so you mentioned the stress drills, and that's, I think, something that is really important, is being able to pressure test your material. Is this something that is done like on a constant basis with all of the techniques and all of the drills that are worked? Are they put under that, litmus test to make sure that they're going to function for the students?
Right, because that's kind of an indicator if they really have it in their muscle memory. And what's really going to happen? You know, when the shit hits the fan, what are you going to do? How are you going to respond? Are you going to freeze? Well, first of all, we really don't know that until we're actually in that situation. So we can only prepare through our classes and hope for the best. But the stress drills are done within the class just to get you moving and to get you thinking really fast. You've got to defend yourself. You've got to get to safety. You've got to see this. You've got to see that. You've got to make sure you don't trip. There's a lot of things that are involved. So we try to give you that in the class so that if it happens for real, you're a little desensitized. And that's our purpose, is to put it under stress. It's, you know, you're not going to be walking in slow motion in a self-defense situation, although it may feel like that. So we just try to make it as real as possible. And then again, it's an indicator of how the class is moving along. Are you getting it? Is it really that simplistic? We're saying Krav Maga is so simplistic. Is it really? Let's do it really fast, put you under stress. And we find out all the time, it works. It works. It's your body's natural response to a threat. And if you have that, then when your body is put under pressure, it's going to go to what it knows naturally. And that's how we work and develop our techniques.
Now, Sue, people in the Midwest, and especially the Chicago area, will recognize your school as probably the preeminent Krav school in the area. And a few years ago, you opened up a second location. Tell us about your studios. For people in the Chicagoland area, where are they? You know, what are you offering at the studios locally?
I have a training center in Highland Park on the North Shore. It was the first one that was opened about 7 years ago. And we teach, obviously, Krav Maga. We're an exclusive Krav Maga training center. We also have a small boxing program. We have strength and conditioning. We're open 7 days a week. We have classes in the morning, the evenings, and on the weekends. And I also have a school in Chicago. It's around the Harlem-Foster area. That one's been open for about 1.5 years now. It's doing very well. I'm very, very proud to have a school in Chicago. It's just awesome. With our program, you can go to either location. So the instructors from one school go back and forth between the two schools. So you're getting the same curriculum, same instructors. It's an official Krav Maga worldwide curriculum. Structure of the class is the same. We're on a rotational curriculum, meaning we have a specific curriculum that we use. So it doesn't matter whether you come Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday. You're not going to miss anything because the curriculum keeps rotating. We've got an adult presence. We've probably got about 300 students, adults, between the two schools. So when you come in, your class could be anywhere from 5 to 25 students in the class. We try to split it up so the classes don't get too busy.
Well, Sue, I want to thank you again for being on the show with us today. It's always great speaking to you. And if anybody is in the area and they want to reach out to you and track you down for classes or for workshops, what's the best way of getting a hold of you?
You could just give me a call. The number is 847-433-0405. Or you could look at my website, which is KravMagaIllinois.com. All you need to do is just give a call or send a little note to the website. You could come in and try out a free self-defense class at either location.
Great. And for the audience at home, I just want to reiterate that Sue is one of the people I can count on my 10 fingers that I would trust to teach combatives, to my family. So by all means, if you are in the Chicagoland area, please, get out there and work with her. She's a phenomenal instructor, phenomenal human being as well. So again, Sue, thank you so much for being part of the show, and always great talking to you.
Thank you. I'm very honored that you spoke to me. Very good.